Now, let me be very clear.
Good afternoon. I'm Sean Yao, and this is One News Now. The World Health Organization says the delivery of AstraZeneca vaccines through the COVAX initiative may be finalized this week. That is after the Philippines completed the necessary requirements for the early rollout of the British-Swedish company's shots. The country is expected to receive around 5.5 million to 9.2 million doses of the jabs within the year. AstraZeneca is one of 3 vaccine manufacturers that have been given an emergency use authorization by the FDA.
There are a range of 5.5 to 9.2 million vaccines earmarked from AstraZeneca scheduled to arrive in the Philippines. What we are now looking at is accelerating delivery of those AstraZeneca vaccines. We are optimistic that before the end of this week, we will hear from the COVAX initiative on likely delivery dates.
Domestic travelers entering Cebu will no longer be required to present negative swab test results. Jenny Dongon joins us live from Lapu-Lapu City to discuss that. Hi, Jenny. What prompted the provincial government to ease travel restrictions despite the spike in COVID-19 cases there in the Queen City of the South?
Sean, Cebu Governor Gwendolyn Garcia has signed the executive order easing the travel requirements for domestic tourists. That's in a bid to help the province bounce back from its losses this pandemic. Instead of a swab test result, the Provincial Tourism Task Force will ask for a medical certificate and a pre-booked hotel or resort. Travelers must also pass the COVID-19 symptom check at the arrival and departure areas. The new policy does not cover the cities of Cebu, Mandaue, and Lapu-Lapu as they are not under the provincial government's jurisdiction. But Lapu-Lapu Mayor Jonad Chan has welcomed the executive order. The Cebu province is now coordinating with tour operators and airlines to come up with affordable travel packages. Accommodation establishments are preparing for the arrival of more guests. Most of the transactions will be contactless to prevent the spread of the virus. Isolation rooms are also being set up for guests showing COVID-19 symptoms. The Interior Department supports the easing of travel requirements of Cebu. DILG USIC Epimaco Densing said that they were in talks with the mayors and governor in Cebu prior to the issuance of the executive order. Densing said that they want the LGU to come up with a uniform travel protocol for the entire country. Sean.
All right, Jenny, just one question. You mentioned that Cebu City, Lapu-Lapu City, and the city of Mandaue are excluded from this executive order, not requiring swab tests for those entering Cebu. What then happens if you want to go to Lapu-Lapu City, Mandaue, or Cebu City?
Yes, Sean, even though Lapu-Lapu, Mandaue, and Cebu City are not part of this provincial executive order, but we were able to interview Lapu-Lapu Mayor Jonad Chan, and he said that he supported the executive order. So yung mga tourists coming from different parts of the country that they will go here in Lapu-Lapu City will no longer get or hingan ng RT-PCR test. So lahat ng requirement na nakapaloob doon sa executive order, ifa-follow yon ng Lapu-Lapu City. And even though the other places like Cebu City and Mandaue City. Sean.
All right, that's good to hear. Thank you for clarifying that, Jenny. Now, ano naman yung reaksyon ng mga tao dyan, ng mga Cebuano? Are they supportive of this new policy kahit tumataas ang number of cases dyan sa Cebu?
Yeah, Sean, we were able to ask, especially taxi drivers, and also other frontliners. They said that they supported this executive order because they really need tourists to survive. And also, they want na mas marami pang mga turista. And sinasabi naman nila, kahit may mga turistang darating dito at hindi sumailalim sa RT-PCR test, sana sumunod na lang sa health protocols kasi no choice na. Dahil ilabas na itong executive order, sumunod na lang sa health protocols para sa kaligtasan ng mga turista, maging ng mga residente dito sa province ng Cebu. Sean.
All right, that's a good outlook, a good way of looking at it, and a good way of putting it. Thank you so much for that update from Cebu City. That was News 5's Jenny Dongon. And the Senate has resumed deliberations on a bill seeking to establish an indemnity fund for the country's vaccination program. For the latest, Ria Fernandez joins us live from Quezon City. Good afternoon, Ria. What is the status of the measure at the Senate?
Sean, just a few minutes ago, the Senate has passed on third and final reading Senate Bill 2057 or the proposed COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act of 2021 after hurdling the second reading. The passage on third and second reading happened because the measure was certified as urgent by President Rodrigo Duterte. Before this, the senators resumed the deliberation more than an hour earlier than their usual 3 p.m. schedule to finish their amendments to the measure. One of the amendments they adopted today was on the provision regarding immunity from liability. Senator Franklin Drilon sought to remove the power of the Health Secretary to provide guidelines on who should be protected against suit. Instead, Drilon suggested to cover all those who carry out the vaccination, except if there is willful misconduct and gross negligence. Meanwhile, senators also accepted proposals to give local governments flexibility to help meet the goals of the program. One was allowing local health officials to update the vaccine list should the available shots are not suitable for the priority sectors. Senator Ralph Recto said this will avoid the spoilage of vaccines. Under another amendment, LGUs may directly accept donations of vaccines approved by our Food and Drug Administration, but they still have to comply with the guidelines and reportorial requirements of the Health Department and other agencies. Sean, on Monday, senators also changed the proposed COVID-19 vaccine passport to a merely vaccine card to avoid the impression of mandatoriness. Sean?
All right, thank you for clarifying all of that. Ria Fernandez of News 5 joining us live from Quezon City. And as inoculations begin in different parts of the world, governments are now looking at reviving tourism and global travel through digital COVID-19 vaccine passports. Question is this a good idea? Bloomberg's Ian Marlowe with the rest of that story.
As millions of people around the world get vaccinated against COVID-19, political and business leaders are talking about vaccine passports as a way to try and get life back to normal. Here's what you need to know. So what's the idea behind vaccine passports? There's a lot of people out there, including governments that rely on tourism, who want global travel to resume, and they want it to resume as safely as possible. So there are a lot of people out there that think vaccine passports are the way to make that happen. At the moment, a lot of countries and airlines require you to show proof that you haven't been infected with COVID-19 before you land, but there's no global standard and regulations vary from place to place. The idea of a vaccine passport would be to create and provide travelers with an updated, modern version of the yellow card that tracks your inoculations over time. That would allow border agents, immigration, airlines, to all have proof that you were vaccinated before traveling and have some kind of modern digital system where those things can even be verified ahead of time. So who's actually developing vaccine passports? There's a number of initiatives out there. There are some being pushed by international travel organizations that would help airlines and border agencies integrate the different requirements for different travelers around the world related to COVID-19. There's some from the World Economic Forum, which is working on the Commons project, which hopes to have a sort of smartphone-based digital app that would have a sort of global standard proving that you had been vaccinated. And there's other ones like Israel's Green Passport, and there's one in the UK that would integrate with the National Health Service. There's only a handful of private companies that are saying they require proof of vaccination. UK-based Saga Cruises is saying that people will need vaccine proof before they're allowed on their ships. There's also Qantas Airways, the Australian airline, whose CEO said that at some point in the future they do hope to only be flying people who have been vaccinated. But at the moment, it's still a bit controversial. You know, people are a little bit cautious to say we're going to limit people by a vaccine or by vaccination. Well, the WHO does not recommend vaccine passports at the moment. They've previously recommended against immunization passports, which would prove that the bearer has some kind of antibodies against COVID. But they basically recommend against these passports for two reasons. One is that people who have been vaccinated can still carry COVID, so they could still technically spread it. And the second thing is that vaccines are in short supply. So if you offer vaccine passports to people who have been vaccinated, not everyone's going to be able to get one because vaccines are limited both by how much your government buys and within each country who's being given the shot yet. There's been a lot of research over the course of the global pandemic that's shown COVID-19 has really hit communities of color hard. It's hit informal sector workers in the developing world. It's really just had an unequal impact across the world and really exacerbated existing inequalities that were already out there. Some worry that vaccine passports could effectively create a sort of new global elite of vaccinated travelers who are free to cross borders, while other people who aren't as lucky or who happen to live in poorer countries may be disadvantaged or further disadvantaged as a result of not having access to one of these vaccine passports.
For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. I'm Sean Yao and we are One News.